Hi everyone, I'm Rosie and welcome to Vox Yoga. Bit of a different video today as I just wanted to take the time to share with you my experience with a vocal injury. So about 7 years ago, I had nodules on my vocal cords, and I feel like singers and vocalists are often, there's a little bit of shame around talking about having these issues, and I think people are starting to see that this really needs to change and people need to be able to speak out about their vocal injuries so that, if a singer has problems, they don't feel ashamed to go to the doctor and go and get it checked out. We are vocal athletes, so, footballers, it's really common for them to get injuries. They'll rest, take time off and come back. So for singers, it really should be seen as a similar sort of thing. Yes, we want to be in the best vocal health and we want to prevent these injuries from happening as much as possible, but sometimes they do. So this is my experience with nodules. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my symptoms, the treatment, the experience with the hospital and the recovery time things. So sit back, get a cup of tea and we'll begin. So yeah, as I said, I had nodules, it was about 7 years ago, and I was a professional teacher and a professional singer at the time. So I was pretty shocked to find out I had nodules. I had been to my doctor to ask to be referred because I was a little bit worried, but I was very much like, oh, I just want reassurance that everything's okay. So I was really surprised. So what led me to go to the doctors in the first place? This is a little bit different to a lot of people that have nodules and vocal problems. My voice was crystal clear throughout, even when I got diagnosed, my voice was really clear. We have that association of people having nodules as having that kind of really husky, growly, low voice. I was a classically trained soprano. I sing a lot more jazz and mezzo stuff now, but I used to sing a lot of soprano, and yeah, I still had clarity in my upper range. However, I was finding that sometimes I used to sing soprano in a chamber choir. Sometimes my high notes would kind of just cut out. And anything above a top A, which was always very easy for me, just occasionally would cut out and I wouldn't be able to reach it. The main red flag was that if I got a cold, and at the time I was teaching 2 days a week in a primary school where I'd sit at the piano and the kids would be right here. So I'd get a cold like once every half term, that I would lose my voice pretty frequently if I got a cold. Sometimes I'd also, go out on a Friday night after work, and I lived in central London then. So even if you just went to the pub or for a meal, it would be quite a loud environment. So I would lose my voice quite frequently. So yes, I thought, okay, I'm just going to go to the doctor. I just want to be sure, be safe, make sure everything's all right. First doctor I saw wouldn't refer me. So I explained my situation. I said that I was a teacher and a vocalist as well. And she was like, oh, we wouldn't normally refer someone unless they've lost their voice 6 times a year, or if they have an issue like acid reflux. And she sent me away again. And I was, pretty annoyed. What I've learned now is that you need to put your foot down and say, I am a professional voice user. I need to be referred. And I've done that since, and it's worked. So yeah, she sent me away, and I didn't even really know what acid reflux was. We'd learned a little bit about it at college. And I knew that a couple of people in my family had it as well. So about a month later, I went back to the same surgery, but in London, of course, there's 10 doctors at one surgery. Went to a different doctor and I said, look, I'm really losing my voice loads. I think I've got acid reflux. Can you refer me? And she did that time. So she referred me to an ENT. So about 3 months later, probably, I got an appointment. Again, I didn't think I had nodules. I just wanted to be safe. So I wasn't like, I really need to advance this. So yeah, I had my appointment with the ENT. There was also a speech therapist in the room as well, like sitting in. And they did a rigid scope. I can't remember the fancy word, but it's like a big stick that goes through down your tongue, across your tongue, yeah, to look at your vocal cords from the top. I'm not going to lie, that one was horrible. That one was not nice. I don't think they tend to do those as much anymore. They tend to do the ones up the nose. So I had that one as well, I think. I seem to remember. I've had so many since. But the one that goes up your nose and down the back, you like half swallow when it gets to the back. That's fine. And actually, I love having them now because you get to see your vocal cords on the screen, and actually it's amazing. And yeah, she said you have nodules and it looks like you've got some acid reflux as well. So my lie that I had told was actually true. So what are vocal nodules? So imagine your vocal folds or your cords touch each other to make sound. They vibrate very, very quickly. If you are straining or have trauma with the vocal folds, they'll be like a collision site. And over lots of time, it'll cause a little bump to develop. It can be, they can be really, really small or they can be bigger. Mine, they said, were soft nodules, which means they didn't require surgery. But if they go untreated, then they can become hard and may need surgery. But I think it's something like 95% of nodules often can just respond to speech therapy and treatment. So I always think, it's kind of like almost like little ulcers on your vocal cords. So it's like little bumps. And then, of course, the vocal cords can't touch in the way that they should. And also, if you just keep causing trauma or if something's getting in the way, like maybe a bit of reflux, then they can't touch properly. And that's how those little bumps develop. Shall I show a photo? I'll show a photo, but warning, if you don't like things like this, I'm fascinated, but maybe look away now. They're not my vocal cords, although I do have photos of mine, but not when I had nodules. But it's very cool if you ever get the chance to see your vocal cords. I highly recommend it. So yeah, she told me I cried because I was so shocked, and I was like, oh my God, I'm a teacher, I'm a singer. I've trained in vocal health and I spent 5 years in higher education at conservatoire and drama school. It's like, how can I have nodules? So yeah, I cried. She was quite rude and was like, oh, I've told people much worse, dear, is what she said. So that wasn't very nice. But aside from that, sorry, I shouldn't say that. The NHS was so good. That was my only slightly, wasn't the most fun experience. I will go on to say how great the NHS were as well. Once you're in the system, it's really good. So yeah, and then I was like, oh my God. I went to the pharmacy. She gave me a prescription for acid reflux tablets, steroid spray up your nose, Gaviscon 4 times a day, and one of those nasal douches, which is so horrible, but they work. You squirt the solution up one side and it comes out the other. Yeah. So the worst part of my nodules experience was the next 6 weeks after I'd been diagnosed, because I didn't get my speech therapy appointment for 6 weeks after that. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should still be singing, teaching, gigging. I had gigs booked in. I didn't really know what to do. So thank God I found out about BAPAM, British Association of Performing Arts Medicine, just the best organisation and resource out there. So I booked in to see a specialist there, went to have a singing lesson with someone who was great and was like, okay, you can still sing, do these things in the meantime, don't just stop talking. And that was really good. What they offer is totally free. You make a donation if you can. I was working at the time, so I did make a donation, but they will give it, a lot of people at the moment with the pandemic are struggling. They do give a lot of free webinars, in person, Zoom, I expect now, so check them out. I actually then had a really strange time before my first speech therapy appointment, because I went into like protection mode, and I thought that if I spoke like this, that I would actually protect my voice and save my voice. And that lovely crystal clear tone, it's so hard to speak like this, crystal clear tone that I had before went, and I caused myself more vocal problems because I spoke like this. and it was really bad. So finally, I got into my speech therapy, and at first I was like, I don't need speech therapy. I know how to speak, but I'll go anyway because it's free. It's great. Obviously, you should go. What I'll say as well is once you're in the system with the NHS, they are great. Like the speech therapist, she just opened up her calendar and booked me in whenever I wanted an appointment. I could have as many as I liked. 6 months later, I said, oh, I'd like to have the camera up my nose again. Can I book in for that? And they would. So I was at Guy's and St Thomas's. So yes, the NHS were fantastic. You just got to get that first appointment and get in the system. And then they're really, really supportive. So what happens in speech therapy? Oh my gosh, well, obviously it's different for everyone, but the first thing she actually did was ask me to go over my schedule. And of course, I was still like, how could I have nodules? And I explained my weekly schedule to her, and I was like, oh God, yeah, I get it now. So I think, how old would I have been? I probably had been teaching, maybe I'd graduated about a year and a half before. So I was in that stage of trying to start my career and taking on every single bit of work. So 2 days a week, I'd work at that primary school. I'd start at 8:30 in the morning. I'd get the tube. I wouldn't speak to anyone before I got to work. And I frequently would get there 5 minutes before I started, and I wouldn't warm up. And I teach for 7 hours all day. I think I probably had 2 days a week in another school there in central London as well. And then I'd work like 9 till 3 in central London. Then I'd get the tube to Wimbledon and work at a private music centre 4 till 8. I'd then Tuesday evenings, I'd have my choir rehearsal. I did a few like 3-week runs of shows around that time as well. I would just cram in as much as I could. That might have been a time where I used to teach on Saturdays, really tiny children as well. I just did so much. And also I lived in London. I was going out, like, not ashamed to say, I drank quite a lot on my Saturday evenings because, I was young, I was enjoying living in London, having a social life. I knew that maybe, if I had a gig coming up, of course I wouldn't do it at all. But yeah, I did. I was actually in quite a stressful living situation as well. At speech therapy, they ask you about, your personal life, what's going on. And she was like, wow, that sounds quite stressful. I was like, yeah, it is actually. And I was like, okay, I get it now. I have nodules and I should have been more careful. But there we go, it happened. And, it's looking at changing your habits so it doesn't happen again. So what kind of things do you do in speech therapy? I think generally, a lot of people will start with things like Laxvox, so fat straw, blowing bubbles in water. People rave about strawfonation. We talk about it all the time at the moment. In fact, my straw's sitting right here because I still do it all the time. We do things like strawfonation for a reason. It is therapeutic. It's used in speech therapy all the time, and it also helps the muscles build strength as well. So it's loads of that, lots of getting more resonance. Used to say things like, many more men on the moon, a lot. And just looking to get, healthy habits, good, clear speaking tone, which then, of course, improves your singing voice. So yeah, recovery time. Like I said, I think about 6 months after I'd initially been diagnosed, I said, can I book in for a scope to have a look again? And I did, and yeah, my vocal cords were completely back to normal. So I don't know exactly how long the nodules took to go, but a lot of it was just over that time doing loads of SOVT, being really mindful, doing more warm-ups, doing body warm-up, breath warm-ups, which I knew about before. I think I just got into really bad habits, to be honest, because a lot of it was stuff that I kind of knew. I just hadn't been practicing it. So, looking a little bit at my lifestyle as well. So if I was, performing, making sure I wouldn't go out to loud places before. I actually changed my 8:30 starts to 9:30, which did make a bit of a difference. I also then really focused on my speaking voice quite a lot as well. I think because I'd been teaching in a primary school, I thought that they'd be more engaged if I spoke like that a lot. And, you end up as a teacher sometimes demonstrating something really classical and high, then something more pop and low. And I wasn't really adjusting and really being mindful about about it. So it's just kind of changing your habits a little bit, and also your mindset as well. And I was able to teach and perform and sing all the way through when I actually had nodules. I haven't really spoken about the acid reflux. I went, oh God, I just don't even want to start because it's endless. I was, referred to gastroenterology as well, huge long waiting lists and just like endless tests and things. And they never really got to the bottom of it. And I think 2 years later, the doctor was like, well, if you don't think your medication is helping, just stop taking it, listen to your body. End of a very long story. So yeah, but acid reflux can manifest in lots of different symptoms. I've never had heartburn, but I have postnasal drip, which can affect the voice. But I'm not gonna. That's a different video. I'm not gonna go into it. So yeah, just being mindful of eating before bed, trying to change habits in that respect as well. So, what's the moral of this video? Moral of the story? Well, don't be afraid to get help. I talk to my students about having nodules. I'm happy to talk about that. I'm happy to talk about that experience because I think it's important that we do talk about it and know that it's not. I mean, yes, it's big if you have vocal problems for you, but you need to know when to get help and not feel ashamed to say, I think I'm having vocal problems. Even if you're a professional singer or teacher or voice user, don't be ashamed to say, look, I'm struggling with my voice. I need to get help. Just get help. Just reach out and talk to someone. Go to the doctor, say, I am a professional voice user. I need to be referred. And getting a scope, it's totally fine. It's a little bit uncomfortable when they put it in. Your eyes will probably water. Mine always stream. I also had one with a stonking cold once, which probably wasn't very nice for the guy that was doing it, but you can still get it done. So don't be worried about that. So yeah, it's taught me a lot, actually. I'm not saying it was a positive experience having nodules, but it definitely taught me a lot about my lifestyle, when to say no. I used to always, if I had a cold, I'd still go to work. I remember teaching when I couldn't speak. I remember one of my students brought in a whiteboard and a pen for me, and I still did my day at work because I was like, I'm self-employed. I must do this day's work or I'll have to make it up another time and I don't know if I've got time. Know your limits, know your body's limits and your voice's limits as well. And yeah, just being mindful of what is good for you. Like I said, I've learnt from having vocal problems, and it's actually made me way more interested in vocal health and the science of the voice. So that's a positive that's come out of it. I'm now a certified vocal health first aider and hoping to do some more qualifications looking at rehabilitation with voices and stuff as well, because I actually quite enjoy the process of going to the ENT and going to see the speech therapist. Is that strange? So please get in touch if you're going through anything similar, if maybe you've just found out that you've got nodules or anything. Obviously I can't advise on things like polyps and cysts or anything, but and also if you, I hope I haven't freaked people out saying, oh, I had a clear tone and I had nodules, but if you think that you might have a problem or you something feels a bit different to normal and it's been 2 weeks, 3 weeks, go get it checked out. And yeah, please do reach out and send me a message, ask me if you have any questions, because I can also recommend some places to go as well. And yeah, the ENT speech therapy department at Guy's and St Thomas's were fantastic as well. So thank you, you guys. Okay, I haven't even drunk any of my tea. It might be cold, but it's fruit tea, so it'll be fine. Thank you for watching and hit subscribe for more content.